Christian, thank you so much for your presentation, which was really eye-opening. And
my pleasure.
Indeed, you are in a position to say things that some others who have to work with the regulators on a day-to-day basis, or also as an applicant, cannot really tell them or cannot really say them. So thank you very much for that. Yeah, perhaps this is something that can be followed up, and it's definitely something that yeah, we should keep in mind from time to time and remind ourselves that there is actually a constitution above the common law, so to speak, and that this yeah, takes precedent, obviously. But perhaps I would like to start our discussions with the ones who have not spoken yet. Paul, perhaps would you like to introduce yourself first and then give us a bit of an idea of what you're doing, where you perhaps have a crossed path with asset reference tokens. Just give us a bit of background.
Perfect. Yeah, thank you so much. My name is Paul Böckner. I'm on the one side president of the Digital Assets Association, and I'm very happy to be here with Oliver, Gernot, Ben, all members working on the forefront on financial innovation, doing this the last 7 years. And on the other side, I'm supporting different projects, also in terms of tokenization. And one project we're currently working on is in the way of reference token, not the reference token. And I can tell now a little bit later about what we are doing exactly. What I see is, in general, I worked the last 15 years, as you can see, losing my hair on financial innovation, starting with crowdfunding, alternative financing, and always in the first step it says, everything is bad, and then step by step it becomes a standard model. And now with the technical possibilities of blockchain, we have a lot of opportunities making intangible assets tangible. Now having MiCA in place gives on the one side clarity, on the other side a big challenge, because there is no asset reference token, and knowing by ourselves, we try to make this with colored gems, with emeralds, green stones, and you should be able to own stones and just transfer it the easiest way as it is possible. Talking with the regulator, it clearly says there is no reference token, and if you want to go for a reference token, be aware that this might take a long time because there are a lot of discussions on a lot of levels, meaning making this innovation possible takes a time. As I personally like challenges, I said to Oliver, challenge accepted, and we have to go that way, but that will take a long time, and it means that innovation takes time, and of course, other continents, as we know, might be faster. Is it good, is it bad? We will see the situation. And also looking back at alternative financing, what we are now in a situation is that when we started, we were thinking we were out of asset reference token. Now it's some way we are in of reference token. Now a new way comes in again, financial instruments, something like CERHA gold, where you have Inhaberschuldverschreibungen on gold is now coming on the other side. We did something similar in Germany. But this means there's a counterparty risk of the organization holding this with Inhaberschuldverschreibungen. On the other side, how we structured this was that you have or would have direct ownership. So you have a less risk on an instrument, but not having a clear guidance on a regulation on asset reference token, it might now take at least a year, maybe 2 years to make this possible in Europe, means we have to go back on an instrument which is not as secure as we could have been done, making it easier on the regulation side. So saying that, I like the discussions with all of you. We are working on this, making innovation, especially in Austria, happening. But there are a lot of challenges, as you pointed out, in order to really make it to the people using that instruments.
Thank you. I mean, Gernot, may I invite you to be next in line?
Yeah, thank you for having me here, Oliver. Very interesting insights already. I have to say up front, I'm not a lawyer, so I'm coming from a clear business perspective for representing also a traditional financial institute. I'm working for RBI, and I'm working there in the group strategy, and we have been looking into the blockchain technology for several years now. So in essence, we have started even in 2018 to look into the technology, and we're all the time driven by looking beyond cryptocurrencies for very obvious reasons. When I entered the space and the topic, and I entered then our boardroom in 2019, 2020, and I started to elaborate what can be done with cryptocurrencies and what Bitcoin is. I was always facing the obvious three problems and hurdles that I was not able to overcome: reputational risk, fraud, and if that was not working out, it was the energy consumption topic around Bitcoin and the proof of work mechanism. Yeah? So we were thinking back then, okay, but blockchain is way more than just cryptocurrencies, and we should embrace this new technology, because for us, and we are in the same department, we are also working on the artificial intelligence topics, and we say, okay, basically from a pure financial institute perspective, blockchain technology will be as disruptive as AI. It's not as much represented at the moment in the media as AI, but it will have the same impact. And if you ask my boards, they will underpin this message: tokenization will change financial industry dramatically. So back then, already in 2020, 2021, we were thinking, and we were also broadly communicating back then, our Raiffeisen token initiative. So we were looking with POCs into several setups, how we can use blockchain technology beyond cryptocurrencies. We were tokenizing a fund shares back then and did some tests. We were also using tokens for cross-border transactions. And we're really able to prove in a very, it was not a laboratory thing, but it was a very RBI internal setup. We were showing already back then that with this very initial setup, and the technology has gone far beyond that stage that we were using back then, we were already more than competitive compared to a SWIFT transaction in time. And SWIFT is only messaging. With the blockchain technology, you can do settlement and reconciliation even in one step. So it's very obvious that those benefits will be harvested sooner or later by players. What we were then facing, and now I'm coming back to the legal space. Back then there was no MiCA, so the stablecoin topic was cooking but not ready to play. The financial or the securities topic is super fragmented. MiFID is an okayish regulation with a lot of downsides if you are a player like RBI that is working on several markets. So MiFID has a lot of room for interpretation from a local regulatory perspective. So Austria sees it a little bit different than Hungary, than Slovakia, than Czechia. For us, that's a nightmare. We always have to adapt to the very local interpretation. So no harmonization is happening here. So then we were thinking, okay, let's try to find an asset class that is not so much regulated as a financial instrument, but where we can start to play. And very obvious, not knowing the gold price developments, we were looking at the commodities area and looking at gold and said, okay, gold is very traditional, so from a customer perspective, you don't need to explain it a lot. It's very clear to our consumers. It's not so regulated, but still regulated enough that we can touch it as a traditional financial institute. So we can distinguish ourselves a little bit from cryptocurrencies, to make here on purpose a little bit black and white painting. And then we said, okay, let's try to do that. And then this happened to us as an accident, and also MiCA came in and we said, look, this art, this is very nice. This could be now the right choice, because passporting, yes, we can start somewhere in our sphere and we can passport it at least into our countries where the MiCA is applicable. And we said, yes, let's go ahead. And we started with discussions with the FMA. Which were positive to some extent, but we then faced also the fact that this first mover thingy is a tricky one. Our local regulator said, yeah, entire Europe is looking then on it. We have EBA, ESMA sitting on our back. We are not sure if we can hold it through. And yes, you are a big bank, but are you sure? are you sure that you are going to make it? No? And if you ask a bank, are you sure that you can be a front runner in this topic, then you're already halfway through that you're not going to make it. No? Because we also have very excellent risk managers, we have excellent lawyers and excellent compliance managers. So we are waiting for a startup basically paving the way that we can basically follow suit. No? That's in essence, that's it. No? We will not take this risk. Why should we do it? No? If no one else can do it, why should we be then the first? No? I listened now to, or I watched the slides very carefully. Obviously, one recommendation from you is a reputable player should start with it, but on the contrary, a reputable player has a lot of reputation to lose. He will also not do it. So we have here a hen and egg problem itself. Everyone knows that an art on gold is a very obvious thing. I can explain it to my grandmother and she will say, yes, that's an interesting thing. I would go for that. I am not a fan of securities. I don't like cryptos at all. I don't care that it's a token. I just want to have a fraction of this gold because I believe that gold is something I'm trusting in. We would basically have everything at hand. I mean, this is a very bold statement. Let's leave out the entire blockchain technology. We are definitely not the experts in that, but we would definitely find partners for it. But we are the biggest wholesaler of Münze Österreich already now. So we know how to treat physical gold. We are a bank, so somewhere there are vaults fully insured, so we can have this reserve of asset stored in the vault quite easily. So putting all the things together, we would be there. No? Still nothing is happening.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's, if I just may add one sentence to that, I totally agree with you. And as we have seen now, the problem isn't the business case, because it seems to be a perfect one. People want it. You want to get it rolling. Many others want to get it rolling too. The problem is a legal one, and it's a structural one of the regulation, but not only the regulation itself. It's a problem of the structure of the authorities and the way they're doing their job. So this is where we have, obviously, to get something done. And yeah, Oliver, what would you say?
Yeah, but before I answer this question, perhaps Shoham, please introduce yourself, give us a bit of background and also where you cross paths with asset reference
Thank you very much. So I'm exactly the opposite. I'm from the startup with not a lot of money as a bank, and I'm a lawyer. So 2 points against you.
So you can still answer my question. We talked a lot already, and I think you're just the right guy to say a few words to that.
I hope so. My name is Shoham Ben Ruby. I'm working with the Shift project. Shift is doing asset reference token, unfortunately, currently out of Europe. We applied for asset reference token. We are working on that. And as I mentioned, I'm a lawyer. I worked in the financial market, in the stock exchange, clearinghouses, Deloitte. Before I joined Shift, I worked for the Dutch AFM, financial regulator, so I know also this side. And now I joined Shift to try to challenge all the regulators, as Christian mentioned, because I think that asset reference token is the thing that can take Europe forward. So I will now put my legal hat for a second, and I will say a few points, actually one point that I want to highlight from the presentation of Oliver and Christian. So they both mentioned the EBA, which is the, as you know, European Banking Authority. The EBA published a final RTS, which is supposed to be a directive, Christian, if I'm not wrong, right? After the RTS, it's going to be directive. Am I right, Christian? Yes.
Let me answer, yes, you're right. So
all right, so it will be a directive soon. Yes, so now it's a final report of regulatory technical standards, and the EBA clearly said that asset reference token can refer a financial instrument. That's a very good. I'm a startup. I read this report. I say, okay, good. EBA, one of the European authorities said that, why not to do that? And I'm going to, not me myself, before I joined, they go to an NCA, National Competent Authority, and they say, I don't know, I will ask ESMA. Okay, I'm going to ESMA. And what ESMA say? EBA doesn't know what they're saying. Come on, but I'm a startup. The EBA is the European Banking Authority. If they don't know, who knows? No, they don't know, we will decide otherwise. Okay, That's one point that I want to highlight. Another point that I want to mention that you said that the problem is a legal problem. In my perspective, I don't think it's a legal problem because from my legal knowledge, you have clear wording at the guidelines, also at the regulation, but the problem is more a policy problem. And that's related to what you said about we want this and this, we as NCAs, we want this and this, but it's not the question. The question is not what we want, the question is what the law is. And in my perspective, and I see it because, again, before I joined Shift, I participated in some ESMA discussions. Some NCAs think A, other things B, and the debate about what is financial instrument is at least 10 years old, this debate, if not more, and we didn't reach an agreement yet. That's about my first point.
Yeah, I think you're totally right, but you're not right with your estimation that it's not a legal problem. Because if you say you're completely right, people don't behave correctly here. That's a problem. Yeah, but we not going to solve this problem if we don't apply the law to the situation, because what they're doing is not in conformity with the law. Because we can't say, right? We can't say you're fired or something like this. Yeah? We cannot fire the bosses of the and the officers of the legal compliance authorities, the financial authorities. So we have to tell them how to behave correctly. That's the problem. That is a legal problem. That is what I mean. Okay?
I will react say we are not firing the NCAs, but again, I live in Europe, my family lives here, I pay taxes here, but currently the project is getting money out of Europe. That's, I think, a problem, a policy problem. Right. And again, the economic behavior of Shift offshore, it's exactly as asset reference token, with the same procedure, with the same regulated custodians, with all the same things, but just out of Europe. So yes. I think if the European authorities will think that, okay, the policy should be, we want these companies, these innovations, these startups that unfortunately will pass the way to the big banks with a lot of money, that they can take NCAs to court, we can't. We'll be here.
Yeah, that's it.
Just to jump in here, yeah. No bank, and I'm coming just from the Raiffeisen Banking International perspective, will go to court against an NCA. They are in Europe.
In the States, it will happen a lot.
In the States, yes, they have a different mentality on going to courts. They go quite often to courts, but we cannot go to court and sue our regulator because it will have an answer that is not happening in the court. It happens then into our in our rooms where the regulator comes in then and make audits the entire year. Yeah? So this is not going to happen. Yeah?
That's exactly what I meant and what I described before. And the problem that we're facing here is that is some kind of deindustrialization that will or might be happening if that goes on like this. It has to stop.
So there's two words I would like to throw at you. Why and what? And what I mean by that is, what do you think, what's the reason why we still have not come to a clean statement on a European level or also national level on asset reference tokens? And then what do you think this might lead to? And I mean, we've touched on that a little bit already, but I'd like to post it to all of you.
Maybe some words from my side. I think there's a you said blockchain is changing a lot. There's a big transformation happening, and there is a lot of forces about things to be protected, and there is something which is happening. We cannot stop it. It will happen. It's happened outside of Europe. So the question is only, what is the European way to find it? And the European way is talking about it. So we are in the middle of, no, it is in the middle of talking about it. And you said startups are needed. Startups are needed at the moment. They are doing these discussions. They need some funding in order to keep alive in order to doing that. But that's the way where we are in. And the decision is not, do we want to do it or not? It's happening. And what's the good thing at the moment is, when you are in the process, in this stage, you have still a possibility to move things. I have seen this in the past. When you talk with the regulator, you give your input, and it's a changing world. And that's the good thing we are in order to add some positive things here at the moment. So there's an existing world, it tries to protect. There's a new world which is coming up worldwide. It's not just a European thing, it will come. The question is only what is the role? And everybody who's now doing the first steps, as you are doing, as others are doing, are the ones who can give their input in order to see how and what is a good way to go for it.
Yeah, exactly. But we will have to talk about it because we don't want a dictatorship or something. No, but what the problem is, we can talk about it. Why not? But not too much, not for such a long time. And the talks that are now being led right now, they are not supportive and not innovation friendly, but they're destructive on the top level, and that has to stop.
I want to add something from the previous role that I did at the FM. You need to remember that MiCA came into force 2 years ago, and there's a transition period. Again, I'm not defending them now, right? But first of all, there's a lot of CASP authorization processes, all right? This is one thing. So MiCA teams all around Europe dealing with this path of authorization. In addition to that, you all heard about the market infrastructure package. Maybe CASP will be moved to be supervised by ESMA. So the NCA say, okay, so why I hired 30 people, 25 people to deal with it if next year I'll have to fire all of them and all the knowledge will move from the NCAs to ESMA. Okay, but CASP will be supervised by ESMA. Who will supervise ARTs? Maybe then I will have time to deal with all these startups that are trying to do something here. Just a perspective, not criticism.
But what do you think will happen? So the what part of the question? What's the result of the how the NCAs now treat that, the asset reference tokens?
I can tell it from my talks with different stakeholders, not only regulators, but also other players and competitors and lawyers in a lot of jurisdictions. For asset reference token, there's two ways of thinking. First group that is currently a small group, but I don't know the reality, I didn't check it, it's not a research in the university, says, okay, all the asset reference tokens was react to Facebook Libra back then. We did it, there's no Facebook coin, thank you very much, we don't care if nothing will happen. This is the first group. I think it's a small group, but I heard it from some people. The other group, which I include in this group, I think that this can be a very, very valuable thing to the European market. And as you mentioned, tokenization will change the financial market. How exactly? I don't think that no one knows, but you need all the tests and exams in this area because part of it will fail, part of it will succeed. But if you want to start with something, I don't know if Shift will be alive 3 years from now. Maybe yes, maybe no, depends on funding, depends on success, depends on regulation. But maybe others will build better business models, less risky models, but you have to have this opportunity to check it and to test it all the time.
All right.
I think we have to accept that maybe the momentum of the art within this MiCA legal framework is not yet here. What do I mean with that? Basically, we from a banking perspective, we are very much supportive and fond of the MiCA regulation in the other parts. So the EMD part, the stablecoin part that Daniel was describing, you see the application. So a lot of players are going into this area. We as RBI are founding member of Kivalis. Now recently, even today, announcement now up to 25 European banks are in there. With this, you fuel basically the interest into tokenization, into CASP licensing, so the custody part will also go broad now into the banking industry. That's for sure. And with that, I'm quite sure, and this is a very bold statement, so don't quote me on that from an RBI perspective. I talk about general banking industry. All relevant banks will offer cryptocurrencies in one or the other way over the next 5 years, for sure, because FOMO comes in and people will do it. And business, you see the outflows, it will come. Sooner or later, all relevant banks. You can quote me on that. Yeah? Don't quote me that RBI will do it in exactly when. Yeah?
We won't.
Yeah. So, with all this happening, you see ecosystems change, interest is rising, and then sooner or later, the time for the art is coming in, and when you then also see relevant figures like the Paxos gold and the volumes that are behind there, the Tether gold, and those are maybe players, I don't want to blackmail them, that are not following European legislation. Yeah? And I don't want that is happening, but if there is something going wrong, so they are not fully backed on their side, and it is a bubble and people are losing money, it's even further than putting pressure on the policymakers to make here the relevant changes to make things happen. So I'm quite sure that it will come. The only pity is that we are losing now time, and we are not. We have a double full stop, so the bigger players cannot move into it because they don't see the certainty that, and we have a lot of ideas, so we will simply move to other ideas then first. No? And the smaller players have so many hurdles to overcome that they will not. It will not pay off for them, no, to make it happen. No? So they will struggle to get it done. No? And this is, we are just losing time on asset classes, and I don't want to all the time focus on gold. I also like his idea. On asset classes where we can really see that people have interest to invest into it. And this is what should be at the core. What do our population want to invest into it? And this is, we are basically restricting here the abilities to our people to make investments possible, and that's a pity.
I hope your prediction of the 5 years time horizon will come true. I made the same prediction 2016, and it did not come true.
Do you remember all the predictions we made?
Were there more then?
Back then, yeah, more. Yeah, but it didn't happen that way. It just it kept and went rolling. Yeah, but it didn't move so fast as everybody believed back then, because on the financial market things are going up and down, and everybody believed back then. We didn't really care, yeah, but others believed that this hype and this upward trend would always be, it will always go on. Yeah? But now I think it's important to be moving a little bit faster, maybe in times of crisis and things like that. I think many people would be motivated to get into such kind of assets.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, I was finishing university around the millennium, yeah, and back then it was already clearly stated the promise of the European Union for us Austrians joining in there is a capital markets union. What has happened in this sphere so far? Personal opinion, not enough. But in this time of geopolitical tensions that we have now, if Europe is not picking up on that momentum now and try to harmonize, and blockchain technology is for sure a huge supportive power in this game, it must happen now. If we are not doing that, then in Europe as a continent, as a union, will fail. That's for sure.
That's true. It will be a total fail, and a full wipe for the European industry. But the thing is, if we don't get rid of this regulation strategy that we have right now, it just will not happen. Because that is what I can tell you for sure. I'm working in many fields on this regulatory level. And this regulation strategy with the ideology-driven approach of the European Commission, that is what creates this disaster. They are too much afraid of dangers, and they want to keep all the problems in some way away from the establishment. And that is, you're saying it yourself, and you belong to the establishment. Yeah? It should be faster, it should be different. That is the main problem, that we are facing unproportionate legislation right now which doesn't reach the goal it wants to reach. It doesn't work what they're doing. That's really a big problem.
Paul, would you like to add?
Yeah, just I'm trying to always be very optimistic. So I'm working already a long time in the startup industry. So I mean, what's happening is, as you said, is we and there are a lot of projects around the world we are doing and starting it outside of Europe. This is what's happening. We are preparing, and still I want to say we have to finish this discussion. It will not end. Hopefully there's some crisis that we can move faster, because crisis always allows things to be changed. But if not, all the projects who are starting it, they have to start outside, going to Singapore, going to Switzerland, wherever they are going, and be ready when the time is ready in Europe. And in the meantime, try to make as much as possible input here in order to make a good regulation for this.
Right. I mean, we're in Vienna, we're in Austria. It's May 2026, there's the Vienna Blockchain Week going on, and there's Vienna Congress, there's tons of side events. So what I would be interested in hearing from you is, I know you also went to other events. I saw some of you, all of you, on other events. What do you think of Austria, Vienna as a blockchain hub? Generally speaking, perhaps also in terms of asset reference tokens. But I'm really curious to see, to get your perspectives. Paul, would you like to?
Maybe I start
continue?
here as my official role in that. So I mean, I'm really happy as Vienna is currently positioned themselves. We have a lot of main cryptocurrency coming to Vienna, and the good thing is, and this I think where really Vienna can play the role of Vienna, is that we now have a lot of small groups where you can meet high-level people from cryptocurrencies, major players around the world, meeting in Vienna and discussing things which have a global impact. And I think we started this discussion, I know, 3-4 years ago, what can Vienna do? And I think Vienna really did their homework. More players are already here now. They see what can they do in order to start in Vienna, and we see this also on Monday. We had our at the Wiener Börse. Tomorrow we have the event. So really, Vienna has done a lot of things, and I think it really will help Vienna. And currently we have also the situation that we have 2 less people in order to start with MiCA license. So we really have to see potential managing partners to be ready to do the MiCA process and so on. I think it's a good thing for Vienna.
Gernot, would you like to?
Yeah, I can only continue where Bauer now stopped. I think it's very good for Vienna, also for Austria. I think it's also good for us in the traditional financial industry, because a lot of talent that starts maybe in the startup area is later then willing to join us and support us in this transition thingy, or vice versa. We have seen a lot of colleagues moving from our compliance departments into these crypto exchanges and support them, because this is sometimes forgotten. We have very excellent compliance people, because we are very much regulated, and those players who come now in are looking also for this kind of talent. And I think overall, also from a university perspective, IT, lawyers, business people, I think this, if I would recommend something to the young people, blockchain technology next to artificial intelligence, there is almost a job guarantee in the next five years for sure, if you go into this area. And it's super interesting, it's super innovative, and I'm to some extent proud that Austria is playing here a significant role. In this context also, thank you also to the FMA. The relevant people are very knowledgeable about the topic. They cannot make magic things like the art happen. That's clear. But overall, we have very good, at least opportunities here. We have to harvest now on that, as Austria, as Vienna, as an economy on that. Because we are in a competition, not only within Europe, but also on a global competition. When talking about crypto, you're talking about global competition.
Right. Johan?
I will ruin the party a little bit. No, I think that the publication of all these events should be more massive, because a lot of people in the crypto area were a bit surprised when I told them that I'm going to Vienna to speak about asset reference tokens. That's one point that I want to say. On the other hand, when I speak with people from Asia and they ask, okay, do you have an asset reference token issue authorization? I said, not yet. Okay, the minute you will have one, give us a call. We'll just do whatever you want with this license. So the reputation is very high of the Austrian and European regulation and supervision. So this is something that we should keep for the long run, and people from outside of Europe really recognize that. So say, okay, they don't know the details of MiCA and what the legal wording of each section, but they know if you will get a license of or authorization of a asset reference token, right away we'll be able to work with you, cooperate with you, partner with you, distribute everything. So,
right, Christian, would you like to say something about Austria as a crypto hub? How you? I mean, you've in it also for more than 10 years now.
Well, yeah, of course, I'm on everybody's side here. We should make such a hub. It's just that too many talks have been, I think, made about this, because there were so many talks about these and so many tries to do it. Now it should just happen. We should make up something. What do you
Isn't
think?
it happening? It is happening, right?
It is happening, but not fast enough, as we said. Yeah, it should happen faster, and then we can make something out of it. Right. But we also have to do something about the legal background, so that the smaller entities, real small entities, cannot succeed anymore. But the smaller entities should also have a chance.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so before we close our panel, I would like to
Oliver,
first of all,
I would like to ask one question to you.
Yeah.
Although you're the moderator, so I can see that some players they did some kind of a MiFIDization, I call it, to the asset reference token structure, the economic structure. And they did it by establishing an issuer out of Europe in, I won't say the name, but Jersey, okay, not the name of the country, the state, and then issue a prospectus with a collateral of the backing asset. So the economic business model is the same. I, as an issuer, owe you the value of the collateral, and I hold all the collateral. The problem that I see in this model is that the issuer is not in Europe, the custody is not in Europe, and there's no supervision on the issue. It's just a transparency under the prospectus regulation. And as you mentioned, the demand from the market, so there's a huge demand for tokenized stocks or financial instrument. They find this way. I can say that we were partnered with them 2 years ago, but we split it to two different ways. We focused on asset reference token, and I don't know if it's a mistake or not, but this is the reality. And they took the MiFID way. I would like to hear what you think about that.
Yeah, that's the easy route, right? And I mean, as I tried to explain earlier, you only get into the MiCA route if you're not stuck in the MiFID route. So if you structure something intentionally as a financial instrument, which there's thousands of prospectuses to draw from, so I mean that's established law and the regulators know it, and if you submit a prospectus to them for a financial instrument that replicates a reference value, or that works precisely as an asset reference token would, but you structure it as a financial instrument, then you only have to comply with the prospectus regime. Funny part is you can do that as an issuer from outside of Europe. You don't need to have your a local presence in Europe. You can even choose your regulator. As long as there's a minimum investment threshold of €1,000, you just pick anyone in Europe, it's fine. I mean, that's the easy route, and I have to agree with, I'm not sure if it's Paul who said it or Christian, I think it was Paul. There's more investor protection present when you structure something as an asset reference token because of what you said now, the requirements of compliance requirements, and maintaining the reserve of assets, having policies in place, being supervised by the authority. They can then get have an on-site inspection, look at the reference assets, at the contracts, as everything. And that's just not possible when you do it with a regular, simple prospectus and a financial instrument. So from an investor perspective, investor protection point of view, the asset reference token is the instrument to choose. Unfortunately, I mean, we've seen this also, Paul, you will remember the discussion about the qualified subordinated loans, which are not in the investor's interest. They worked. More safe investment opportunities wouldn't, because they would be banking business, whatever. And I have a bit of a, déjà vu. It's a little bit, this discussion is repeating again. The instruments that are less secure for the investors, they're being published and they're being offered, and the ones that would be more secure are held back. That's my personal view on it. But yeah, I share your optimism insofar as I think the time for asset reference tokens will come. Someday somebody will make it, and once the dam is breached, the projects will follow. All the projects will follow. Before I close the panel now, I would like to give our audience an opportunity to ask questions. Is there something you would like? I mean, we have Digital Assets Association, we have RBI, we have a token project, Shift here, we have a professor for constitutional law. Is there anything you would like to ask them now? Obviously, you have an opportunity once we close the round and we get to networking, but is there something you would like to ask now? We have a question?
Yes, my name is Peter Noble. I'm a financial regulatory specialist, but focused on the traditional financial instruments market. I think I must fully underline and underpin what you, Shoa, have mentioned, and also Mr. Piska, what you have mentioned. It is just the same phenomenon as it has occurred in the traditional financial markets. It's a mixture of policy and a mixture of lacking legal remedies. And the thing is, we are in Europe, we have fundamental human rights, and we have the European Court of Justice, and we have the European Central Bank, and no one of these institutions actually protects small entities that would like to issue RRTs. So this is an institutional problem, I would think, first of all, because, I mean, on the national level we have fundamental rights and we have courts, constitutional courts, that protect these fundamental rights, but the European Court of Justice is not really efficient in protecting the fundamental rights, and this is due to the fact that integration is preferred over protecting individuals or individual entities. That is my first thing I wanted to mention, and the second thing is, of course, policy. And the policy is not only, let's say, people who would like to have a sustainable economy and things like that. It's also a problem of the central banks. I'm quite sure that the European Central Bank is not very supportive relating to the issuance of ARTs. And the reason for this is because it's something they fear it is in competition with their money policy.
Mm. Monetary policy.
Yeah. And my question to you would be whether you would support such a thing, like I mentioned before, it's a mixture of policy and insufficient protection of human fundamental rights in Europe.
Okay, I'll take it as a comment. Would you like to say something to that?
Regarding the policy, I totally agree. I want to mention also that next June, I think June 2027, is supposed to be the first mandatory review of MiCA. And that's maybe something that all of us here can write papers from the university, from the industry, that usually regulators say, okay, as you mentioned, okay, startup say something. But if a professor from the university would say something similar, maybe it will get more attraction, or a big bank. And I think that you mentioned the institutional things. Maybe, again, just out of my head, maybe asset reference tokens should be out of the banking area at all. And it will be non-fiat-backed asset at all. Other products like gold, commodities, financial instrument, real estate, maybe that's also something that people talk about. And then took all the central banks and EBA and all this part only for e-money tokens. And I understand your and the banking fear from stablecoins, but 100 years ago, someone invented banks. Now, maybe something new will happen, but, and this is a big but, I don't think that stablecoins or whatever will replace traditional banking. It will be part of the market, smaller, bigger, I don't know. I don't think it will replace any central bank fiat money.
Yeah, I also totally agree. Well, as I can say, just to keep it short, these are two aspects. I think there is a lack of procedural rights that you have, a lack of remedies that you can make usable against such behavior of authorities. So we would need remedies that make it possible to appeal against some behavior without having to be afraid of losing your standpoint or your connection to the people who decide upon you. And that would be possible to find ways to create means that would help you doing that. And suddenly everybody would try to tell them and to use these remedies and try to change something. The second thing is, that somebody has to elaborate or bring it to the public what is going wrong here. Somebody has to make it visible. Yeah. You can see it. Most people from the industry and most people who are acting in this level playing field, yeah, they wouldn't really admit it that they don't want it to be like that. Yeah, but if you don't expose the problem as it is, and if you don't expose things that are going wrong, using, like I pointed it out, constitutional mechanisms, fundamental rights, which are some kind of paper tiger in the system. They simply don't exist. Yeah, they're on the paper, but nothing more. And this is unacceptable from a constitutional standpoint or from the rule of law.
Mm-hmm. Thank you very much. We have two more questions. Perhaps
I have a question to Mr. Piska. But if someone puts up this epic fight against the regulator or and say, okay, we fight this through because we want the ART immediately, this is, you have one player and then you have a dozen other banks and financial institutions who sit in the first line and say, okay, let's watch this fight. So there is no incentive actually in terms of put up this fight. So actually, if I may refer to RPI, there should be some sort of collective action, like in order to tackle this problem, because one player extends his reputation, destroys his relation to the regulator, and the other one afterwards profits. So I don't. What's your opinion on this analysis? Is this correct?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, that's what I observed also in my practice. But think of a person from an actor that we know, everybody knows it. It's Mr. I'll Be Back. okay? His motto for his life is, don't listen to the naysayers, okay? So what you are describing is true, yeah? But if we always say it's not possible because nobody dares to do it, it will just not happen. And many people in the world have proven that if you just dare to do something, it might work out. The plan must be, of course, a good one. And what I observed during many projects that I was connected to, I have to say, it's really a question of making it visible what is happening. Because, of course, constitutional law, this is something somewhere above there, and many people think it's of no relevance and things like that. But it is. It is. People just don't know. Even law, even advocates. You wrote your doctoral thesis with me, so I know about your qualification, and I know that you're one of the best, and you understand what this is about. Yeah, but most people don't even think of it. So if you make it understandable, things can change. But of course, it is easy, and it has to be done in a way that proves to be effective. But it's possible. I just cannot talk about everything that is just happening right now. But I can tell you things are happening. They're interesting. It's got to do with the general regulation strategy that is applied by the European Commission. And I can tell you there are many points of criticism that are very, very valuable. And in some points, they are, it's not possible to prove the contrary because they are true.
Thanks for the compliment, Christian. We have one more question.
Yes, good evening, gentlemen. My name is Christoph Pagel. I am a crypto economist and a mechanism designer. Over the last 8 years, I was working in different constellations worldwide, designing and deploying different protocols. So my question to you would be, because I see the conversation today centers around tokens and asset reference tokens, but the worldwide or the global conversation in crypto centers more around protocol design, protocol deployment. So my question to you as representatives from the banking sector, advocates, and the regulatory body today would be, what is the appetite in Austria for someone like me coming to Austria and aiming to design and deploy a protocol? And where do you draw the line between token design and protocol design, and how advanced do you see the regulatory body being in acceptance of such movement?
Maybe if I can start here. It's really, really interesting question. It really depends on what protocol you are working on. If you're talking about layer 1 chains and everything that's related to that, that's pretty much solved. And there's it's pretty clear what can be done, where you would need to look out a little, but there's no real hurdles. If you're talking about protocols on layer 2 protocols, like trying to design a decentralized finance product, then that's also, there's pretty clear-cut things that as long as you stay clear of, you'll be outside of any sort of regulation. So it's pretty clear what you can do and what you cannot do in terms of being not regulated. So this is also pretty clear cut now. And I think your question is more or less relating to DeFi protocol design, right? And funnily enough, DeFi is currently not part of MiCA. And just today, I received a message earlier, the consultation process on including extending MiCA or extending CASP obligations to DeFi has started today. So there's a consultation paper that's been published. I have had no time to read it yet. I just know it's out there. And I also know for a fact that the proposal is to make crypto asset service providers basically gatekeepers of DeFi protocols. So when it comes to the protocol itself, it's pretty clear cut what can and cannot be done. That's the discussion that took place. Right, that's my 2 cents to that question. Anybody else wants to add something here?
I mean, I can only more on the economic side. I guess Vienna is a good place to start things. As we see, we have amazing lawyers, and there's a good way to talk with the regulator on these topics. I guess due to the size, maybe you have to do it on a European level in order for being feasible. But that's what's happening now. Vienna becomes a hub for your location within Europe, and then scale it from there. Of course, you have to go to other countries, do your legal part and regulatory part there. But Vienna is definitely a good place to start. But business has to be done within Europe in order to be feasible in terms of size.
All right. Let's close the panel. Thank you very much for joining us. Big round of applause.